Hey, what's going on, everyone? Back with some knife content. Today I'm switching it up and I have a actual knife overview for you today. So pretty excited about that. Today we're going to be looking at the Microtech MSI or Microtech Standard Issue. This is the box that it comes with, very standard for Microtech in this day and age. Kind of contrary to Spyderco, Microtech just kind of puts general specifics in here. So, they're like, you got to kind of figure out what kind of knife you have. I do think it's interesting that they don't have the ram lock guide in here. So it only shows the manual folder operation, which is that liner lock, and then a single action auto. So, this brochure is actually not applicable to the MSI, which is going to be outfitted with the ram lock. But with that, the box that it comes with, put this thing front and center here. So the Microtech MSI, so it features a 4-inch blade. The version that I have is stonewashed with satin flat, so it looks really good. I think it will, this being M390, it'll kind of swallow up any scratches or snails. So that's definitely a plus. Overall, it's 8.8 inches. It weighs 5.3 ounces. So a little bit on the heavy side, but nothing too crazy. As I said, this does feature Microtech's new ram lock mechanism. The version that I have features G10 handles. The pivot is going to be running on bearings, and it has a $386 sales price from what I could find. With that, we'll get into a couple comparisons here. So the Microtech MSI as compared to a Chris Reeve large Sebenza, looks like that. A Demco 8020. Looks like that. There now they're kind of lined up a little bit better. And finally, the Microtech MSI as compared to a Strider SMF. Looks like that. So we're gonna get into my observations. All told, I have not owned this knife for very long, but I carried it for a couple of days and it was pretty clear. Like, I feel like I was able to hammer out kind of a good overview for it. So I'm looking forward to getting into it, and appreciate y'all tuning in. All right, hopping right in. So as I said, it's been a while since I've done kind of a tried and true knife overview. There just really haven't been too many knives out there that I've seen that have come out that I wanted to try or buy or anything like that. But certainly I wasn't too wrapped around the axle as far as the model that I got. I was also looking at like a manual stitch, but this MSI, I got it for a song, and I was like, you know what, I literally just bought this to try out the new Microtech locking mechanism. So with that, my initial impressions, this is a big girl, right? So you have a 4-inch blade, 3.5-inch cutting surface. It's a very large knife. So if you're into larger knives, thinking on that Demco 8020, Strider SMF stage, this thing would be right up your alley. I mean, it is a big knife. The next observation that I had was, again, baggers can't be choosers, or people that are looking for deals can't be choosers. I hate this flat dark earth color. I think it is super ugly. I don't like it. It's like poop brown colored. Would have loved to get a black one, but again, this is the one that I got. But I will say I would take a black version of this any day. The next observation that I had was, I really do like on the newer Microtechs the branding that they're doing. So you just have their claw logo right here, instead of the whole like billboard Microtech blah 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 on the blade. I really do like that. They kept the blade clean, but because of that, they literally had to write a short story on the clip. So on the clip it says MSI serial number 1415, the date of manufacture, and then they hit you with the Microtech logo. So pretty busy pocket clip, probably the most busy or busiest pocket clip I have ever seen in the knife game. All right, the next observation that I had was the hand feel, and for me, it's a pretty solid hand feel. It's a very linear knife. It's not offset at all, like like a Hinder or something like that, or even a Strider for that matter. It's a very linear and straight knife, kind of reminiscent of like a Chris Reeve offering, I would say. The only difference being you have this little kind of peak right here at the top, which it does add to the ergonomics of the knife. It kind of puts the cutting edge a little bit forward when you're holding on to it. So pretty nice ergonomics overall. I would say though, this G10 is like very, very brittle sounding, and on the inside, it's not chamfered at all. So it kind of gives it a little bit of a cheap feel, I would say. So the G10 is like sharp, and then it's just very brittle sounding. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but I mean, certainly I think the build quality is there, but you know, it's definitely worth noting, I think. Good thing about this knife is, so it's not going to feature any proprietary screws, which is really nice to see. It's just going to be a, you know, Torx bit. Looks like you need 2 different sizes to work this thing. I've not taken this thing apart. I've only owned it for a couple days, but that's kind of nice to see. But with that, I mean, there's no escaping the fact that, you know, just the sheer amount of screws that hold this knife together. It's actually kind of shocking. They couldn't have put another screw on this thing if they wanted to. They literally ran out of real estate for screws, but there are a ton of screws holding the backspacer in, holding the locking mechanism, the pivot, the pocket clip, you know, has 2 screws on each side. A lot going on there in the way of hardware. All right, the next observation that I had, I wanted to talk about this ram lock, which to me, it was very reminiscent or similar sounding, feeling as a Demco shark lock. But the only difference being, or I mean, I'm sure there's more differences as far as the build goes, but the ram lock has a lot more exposed, right? So, I mean, any way you look at it, like on the Microtech, I can look down here, I can see like the spring that compresses, you know, this kind of plunger that holds it in. All of that is not visible on the Demco, and I actually appreciate that about the Demco. So I really do think that this ram lock, again, if anybody knows anything, you know, knows otherwise, please feel free to chime in. But this definitely does seem like it was Microtech's kind of run at recreating a shark lock. And I mean, I have taken apart Demcos before. They have the same kind of plunger spring mechanism, but no way to escape it. All the parts of the ram lock are much more exposed to the elements, if you will, as compared to a Demco. And just one more comparison to the Demco. One of the things that I really like, and it will take me into my next observation, is on the Microtech, you need to actuate the ram lock with 2 fingers, right? So, you know, with 1 finger, it's a little bit awkward to do. But with the Demco, you know, it's just center line, 1 thing, you hit this, the blade closes. With the MSI, with the ram lock, you actually need to have like your pointer finger and your thumb to kind of push against this part of your hand and close the knife. So it's definitely not as comfortable as the Demco. And this next point I'm going to make is a tough one. So this is actually going to be the first knife that I have ever cut myself while collecting data on a knife, literally just sitting down, trying to go through my thoughts. And I was worried about it before, right? I was like, I was kind of scared to shut it. And then, oh, by the way, while I was doing this review, it ended up closing on my hand, right? Because I mean, this blade, obviously it stops here in the frame, but you know, I'm not like a super chubby person or anything, but you know, when you close this thing, that blade does come next to your hand. And when I was doing that, it literally cut me. So this is going to be the first knife after 150 videos or whatever that actually cut me during the overview. So I think I'm onto something there. The Demco would never do that to me. So 1 finger actuation, 2 finger actuation. I think the Demco wins. All right, my last observation of the Microtech MSI is going to be this fuller. You know, so it's a through blade fuller here, and I don't know, like, I guess it looks cool. I'm trying to picture this knife without it. It would probably look even more boring than it already does. I do like how this is kind of beveled on the top of the spine, but I just found, like, and I don't want to cut myself again, but actuating this knife with your pointer finger, it's pretty easy to kind of get it up into this area right here to open it, but I kind of prefer to use my middle finger to actuate knives. And what I found was my finger kind of would like slide up in this fuller, and then I was losing like all mechanical advantage to open it. So you kind of do have to like flick your wrist a little bit. There's no like ball detent that it needs to like catch, I would say. So, you know, once it's open, as long as you kind of hit the top, the pin up here, it is going to lock into place. But I don't know. I wouldn't want to see this as like a flipper. I think that this is an appropriate way to actuate this knife, but at the same time, I did find that my finger was kind of sliding up this fuller a little bit. Wanted to mention it. And that concludes my overview of the Microtech MSI, or Microtech Standard Issue. All in all, I think it's a solid knife for the money. Again, from what I can see, these go for about $386. It is really nice to see Microtech evolving and kind of listening to their customers. Like, again, no proprietary screws on here. This ram lock, they're not doing the old, liner lock. It is nice to see that evolution. I have to say I hate the name, right? MSI, Standard Issue. It just makes this knife sound boring, like especially when you have other knives that are coming out at the same time called like the Microtech Stitch. Like I think that's a really cool name. Microtech Standard Issue just sounds boring. You may be asking, what is the future for me in this knife? I kind of decided, and I talked to a couple of my buddies about this, I want to test out the durability of the ram lock. So in the, near future, you can expect to see a lot of, whistling diesel-esque videos coming up of this. Torture tests, if you will, whatever. I don't plan to resell this knife. I kind of want to see how well this, more exposed ram lock holds up. With that, in the comments, if you have any ideas that I can do as far as like torture tests here, like obviously I could, smash this thing with a hammer and it would be over real quick. But I do want to kind of put this thing through its paces, and I have no intention of reselling this thing. So coming up, we're going to see what this bad Larry can do. So appreciate y'all tuning in. I know it's been a little bit. I'm going to try to get a few more knives here to review. Appreciate y'all tuning in. We'll see you next time.